So we're talking about leaving the bait behind, transcending the shadow of your past, and honoring the wisdom you gained. There is a temptation to the past, but in this, you have to let the tower fall. At various crossroads in life, we find ourselves haunted by echoes, memories, traumas, former identities, and unresolved wounds. The past is an ever present ghost, sometimes friendly, often misleading, offering us a comfortable familiarity even when wrapped in the bitterness of pain or regret. Yet, what if healing is not about forgetting or erasing the past, but placing it where it belongs, firmly in the rearview mirror, while driving with clarity into the life we were always meant to lead? To deal with the past is to confront the shadow, and this is a term that's been popularized by Swiss psychologist Carl Jung to refer to the unconscious aspects of the psyche that we reject, deny, or suppress. This includes guilt, shame, fear, anger, addictions, and limiting beliefs. But shadow work is not merely a confrontation, it is a transformation, or even a transmutation. It is a sacred alchemy. And as one emerges from this deep internal work, the greatest power becomes the ability to not take the bait. That is, to no longer fall for the cycles, the temptations, the people, and the patterns that once ensnared us. We stop touching the fire not because the flame has changed, but because we have. And this is the nature of the shadow. The shadow aspect of the self is not inherently evil. It is simply the hidden. It is the unloved, the unexamined, the unintegrated, and each human being, no matter how spiritually enlightened or emotionally intelligent, has a shadow. To deny the shadow is to risk projecting it onto others, blaming, shaming, or demonizing external forces for the very traits and tendencies we repress within ourselves. We can't control the rest of the world, but we can control what we do to ourselves. And so that's where our focus should be. Jung stated, until you can make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In this sense, the past becomes a loop. You will meet the same lovers with different faces. You will attract the same betrayals. You will find yourself in job after job that disrespects and devalues your soul. The players may change, but the script remains. Why? Because the unresolved shadow is the true author behind the scenes. You have lessons to learn. You won't move past unless you've learned them. And yes, there are pop quizzes. Shadow work is not about indulging in victimhood. It's about not even wallowing in what went wrong or who hurt you. It's about reclaiming your power by illuminating your blind spots. Once you see things clearly, your trauma no longer controls you. You see it for what it is. It's a spiritual initiation, and then you can move on to the next level. So there's the lure of bait. Temptation doesn't always come dressed as sin. It comes often wrapped in nostalgia. The bait is any energetic trap designed to pull you back into the reality you've outgrown. A message from an ex, a social media post that sparks comparison, a job offer that pays well but requires you to shrink yourself beneath what you've evolved into, a conversation that drags you into old drama. The bait is subtle, seductive, and often disguised as opportunity or even closure. But the healed self is not so easily fooled. To not take the bait is not repression, it is recognition. You are not in denial of what the past offered or taught you. You simply have no need to re engage it, to entertain its reruns. A chapter closes and keep it closed. Rereading it doesn't change the ending. What it does change is your momentum. And in spiritual evolution, your direction is everything. To recognize the bait and walk past it is a divine act of self respect. It is evidence that your internal compass is no longer broken. You no longer move based on your wounds, you move based on your wisdom. And so this is where the sacred role of memory comes into play. Let us be clear. Placing the past behind you is not the same as forgetting it. You do not have to erase your memories to be free. In fact, memory can be a powerful, sacred archive, a library of lived experience. Every betrayal taught discernment. Every mistake carved depth. Every breakdown was a doorway to rebirth. However, the past becomes dangerous when it becomes a mirror through which you judge the present. If you are always trying to ensure the present doesn't repeat the pain of the past, then you are still in bondage. You are still in fear. You're living in anticipation of the trauma, which is just as binding as the trauma itself. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Spiritual maturity is realizing that while you cannot rewrite the past, you can absolutely rewire your response to it. The event happened. The energy has passed. Your nervous system no longer needs to relive it. The past belongs where it is, a reference point, not a place of residence. You don't need to live there and get charged rent. Boundaries are not bitterness. As we grow spiritually, we begin to realize that the people, places, and environments we once called home were often just unfit for where we were going. They're not worthy of where our soul expands to. This is not a judgment, it is a fact of energetic mismatch. Setting boundaries does not mean you are bitter. Walking away does not mean you are cold. Silence does not mean you are weak. These are the behaviors of someone who has seen the fire, been burned, and now chooses warmth over heat. When the bait shows up, and it always will, you are no longer lured. You don't need to explain, justify, or avenge yourself. Your absence is your answer, and in that space, you give yourself the gift of peace, the gift that keeps on giving. So, this is where spiritual discernment comes into play, the art of saying no. Every spiritual path eventually teaches the sacredness of no. No to chaos, no to drama, no to false flattery, no to lovers who want something from you but not your soul, that they want to be able to be with you on a deep level. They just are looking to get something out of you. No to friendships that feed off your light but never pour back into you. How many times will you pour cups for others and have nothing left to pour for yourself? No to jobs that extract your energy while insulting your essence. No to cycles that pretend to have changed but still carry the same poison. Discernment is not judgment. It is clarity. It is vision beyond illusion. It is the ability to recognize when something has run its course, even if it once felt like home, even if it once felt like destiny. This is a maturity few possess because it requires standing alone, not out of pride, but out of principle. Not out of the sense that you don't want to be with others, but just you realize that not every place is where you belong. And so, not every familiar feeling is meant to be revisited. This is the art of detachment. This is how you get away from dukkha, from the suffering. One of the greatest misunderstandings about healing is the idea that peace means life stops testing you. No, it doesn't. In truth, peace is not the absence of trials. It's the absence of inner chaos when the trials arise. You cannot control the outer world, but you can master your responses. Pop quiz, you're going to get the same thing you experienced in the past, with new faces. But now, will you react the right way? Detachment is not indifference. It is willingness to let go of what is not aligned, even when you once loved it. It is watching the bait come back, seeing it clearly for what it is, recognizing it and saying, I see you, and I honor what you once meant, but I do not need to re-engage. Detachment is knowing that your value does not lie in proving your worth to others. It lies in living in your own truth, walking with the Almighty Spirit, the Divine, and following the path of inner alignment, even when it might seem like a lonely one. The more detached you become from the illusion of validation, the more immune you are to the bait. You see, you don't need others to make you feel good. You feel good all within yourself because you know you're in the right energetic alignment. You know you exist in the light. Everything is energy, and every choice you either make lifts our vibration or lowers it. When you interact with a person who has not healed, you feel it. Their words carry the sharpness of projection. Their presence drains. It's like they're an energy vampire, and they don't even have to know that they are. Their motives manipulate. This is not personal, it's spiritual. To protect that energy is to respect your temple. It's realizing that your light is not meant to be dimmed, and that you are not here to people please or make others feel comfortable. You are not required to lower your frequency to stay relatable. In fact, you and elevate, and this naturally burns bridges. Let it. Let those bridges burn. Let them burn because they would only lead back to suffering. When you walk forward, radiant and whole, some will say, you've changed. You are not the same person. You're no longer in this energetic agreement with dysfunction. That's okay. Reprogramming your mind is the key. Healing is not just spiritual, it is neurological. The brain, once programmed by trauma, becomes accustomed to chaos. It becomes addicted to pain, intensity, or drama. This is why many people leave toxic situations only to recreate it within themselves somewhere else. You don't need that. You need to stay away from what is not for you. You need to retrain your mind. Meditation, mindfulness, focus, journaling, shadow work, inner child healing. These are not trendy terms. They're literal reprogramming tools. They help to deconstruct the old software and install a new operating system which is built not on chaos, but safety, clarity, and self-worth. The more you train your mind to reject the bait, the more you habituate to peace. Eventually, peace no longer feels like a foreign thing. It is your default. It is where you truly belong. So forgiveness is a freedom. Forgiveness is not about excusing the behavior. It's about releasing the energetic tie, the quantum entanglement of you with something that does not serve you. To forgive is to say, you no longer live in my nervous system. I am not recycling you in my thoughts. I am not seeking revenge on you. I am not obsessed with some sort of outcome. I'm not editing my life story to make you a center to the role. When you forgive, you free yourself. The shadow loses one of its strongest hooks, and as you walk away from the bait, you do so with no strings attached. This is the detachment that is required. There's power in that. Quiet power, unshakable power, the kind of power that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. So, this is why you choose the light over the loop. This is the final stage of healing. This is choice. Not everything needs to be explained. Not every closure needs a conversation. Sometimes the door you're meant to walk through requires you to keep walking, no matter how loudly the past knocks behind you. You don't have to go back and fix everything. You just have to not go back. You don't owe the version of you that tolerated pain and apology. You owe them the path to elevation. You don't need to engage with those who were committed to misunderstanding your path. You need only to live in that path, even if it's a lonely trek. To leave the bait behind is to say yes to the soul. It is to choose alignment over addiction. It is to choose destiny over drama. It is to choose depth over ego. It is to choose healing over familiarity. The fire was always a blessing. In the end, the fire that once consumed you purified you. The past that once held you down taught you how to ascend, elevate, and rise. The people who triggered your pain activated your awakening. You have seen the shadow, you have walked through the darkness, but now you are the one holding the torch. And here is the truth: the past has no power unless you give it a seat at your table. So don't. Let the past be what it was, a lesson, a mirror, part of your evolution. But don't take the bait. Don't turn back. The bridge is gone for a reason. Walk ever forward. And if I don't see you, just remember, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.